So on the 22nd of June, I was just minding my own business, woke up at like 2:30 a.m. and I had a message request from uh, Mackenzie.UFC, and I woke up all groggy, but I seen the UFC in the name and I'm thinking, that name rings a bell. And then I was like thinking, where have I seen that name before? And then I realized, like I'd woken up at like 2:30 a.m. and I wake up and then I'm like, wait a minute, is that Mackenzie Pavicic? And then I open it and I get this message. It says, Ben P, what's up, man? I work for UFC.com and my team wanted to do a little article on you/Jack. Would you mind if someone reached out for a few quotes, 10-15 minutes? Now, I think a lot of people already know about the story with me and Jack Jenkins, but for those that don't know, when he was fighting on Dana White Contender Series, I did a bunch of research on his opponent, and I found that his opponent, Freddie Linares, lost a fight due to a cut. And, wanting to be as helpful as possible, given the situation, I happened to message Jack a photo of his cut and told him, he got cut there, maybe if you aim for that, maybe that can help you. And then in the fight, Jack actually top mounted him, and mid-fight he was looking and he's like, if I go for that cut, it's going to open up. So he fucking elbows the cut, opens the cut up, and he pretty much got a TKO because of the cut, because so much blood that Mark Smith had to step in because, there was so much blood everywhere. Like, he was destroying Linares anywhere on the ground, but the blood was definitely a big impact because he stopped it with like 20 seconds to go in the fight. And then Jack was on this podcast called the Unlaced Podcast, and he brought this story up, and he had actually told me that he had brought this story up, and that, he told me, oh yeah, I mentioned you on a podcast and all this stuff, and I was saying, oh, that's so sick. And then, I was waiting for weeks to see it, and then eventually that came out, and that clip went viral where he's talking about me. And yeah, so this clip went super viral, and then the UFC, I guess they heard about it, because after his fight with Don Shainis, he actually mentions, he gets asked if he got any more advice, which we actually met up at the UFC Fighter Hotel, and we talked game plan, we got a photo together, and it was just a surreal moment, honestly, just to meet, hang out with a UFC fighter was really weird. It wasn't too long, it was 10-15 minutes max, but it was still weird to, it's not like I just ran into him, we actually organized to hang out, which was just super weird to me. I was hanging out with a UFC fighter and he was meeting up with me. I don't know, it was just it was so weird. It felt so, it felt like the Twilight Zone. It didn't feel real. But then moving on, so after that, he gets asked, and then so Mackenzie knows about my origins, and I actually seen her post on her Instagram the clip, and then I commented on it, so I guess that's how she got my Instagram. And then I get the message, obviously, a few months later, because this was in February, obviously, when the interview with Jack, where they asked Jack about me. And then, I get this message, and then I get asked, oh, yeah, do you want to do an interview? And I was like, well, fucking, yeah, of course I do. So I do this interview, and it was the most surreal. It was so bizarre. That's all I can say about this experience. Getting interviewed, somebody asking me questions, like I'm somebody. It was so weird to me. Honestly, just sitting there. So I was on my work break. I was on my lunch break at work when I actually got interviewed and everything. So it was so weird. I'm just sitting in my car, waiting, and then I get the call. And it was such a surreal moment to getting interviewed and getting asked all these questions, and it's like what the fuck? I'm just a normal guy, but like I still am just a normal guy, but it's just so weird that this like experience happened to me because all my everybody in my friendship group, like knows me as the fucking encyclopedia for like MMA knowledge, combat sport knowledge, like, and I don't know, it was just such a weird experience to properly get interviewed by the UFC, and then they actually put out an article, which I'll put up. It was like a UFC fighter is bound to have random people in their DMs at any point, whether it's a fan, a hater, or somewhere in between. The life of a fighter or any high-level athlete honestly includes interacting with people online. Some treat it as a chore, others a distraction. Sometimes, though, the internet can create some otherwise impossible means of connection. For Ben P, that's me, a young Australian man who calls himself a hardcore fan since 2018, he took to Instagram in hopes of helping fellow Aussie Jack Jenkins ahead of the Contender Series bout in September 2022 against Emilio Linares. Ben watched each of Linares' fights and passed through various websites to find out how Linares lost via doctor stoppage in December 2020. Oh, actually, a little story I forgot to I left out. So when the Contender Series fight was on, I was actually down south with my ex-girlfriend, and I told her we had to watch the fight. And during the fight, when he started elbowing Linares, I was freaking out. I was like, oh my God, he's actually got the cut. He's actually gone for the cut. Now, in hindsight, we probably broke up because I made her watch Dana White Contender Series while we were down south on a holiday. But it was worth it in the long term. But, yeah, I honestly, I've never fanboyed harder in my life than that moment, because I was literally fanboying out like, oh my God, he's actually gone for the cut. Like, and then I actually messaged him and like he sent like I was like, oh, the cut came in handy, and then he sent like an emoji or something like that. But anyway, going back to the interview, I just needed to add that little story because I was freaking out when it happened. Now, with the fight itself, not the fight itself, I mean, he won the fight. But with the Don Shainis fight, actually, when we met up in the fighter hotel, I was telling him to go to the clinch because Don's pretty weak in the clinch, which you could see. And yeah, immediately into the fight, Jack just fucking starts destroying his body in the clinch, which I was fanboying out about that as well. But yeah, then with that interview, it was honestly, it went for about, I think, 10 minutes or so. Let me see if I can find it. Would have been, okay, no, it doesn't actually say when it is. That's annoying. Yeah, well, anyway, it would have been about it was about 10 minutes or something, but it was like the most surreal 10 minutes of my life. Like, nothing beats that. And also, they actually put up a photo of me and Jack on there, so literally I'm like fucking canon to UFC website. Like, Benny P MMA is literally on a UFC fucking page. Like, I don't know, I just felt the need to talk about this story just because a lot of people do know about the story with me and Jack, like a lot of my friends and stuff like that who are probably following this page, but subscribe to my YouTube. But for people who aren't, I just thought I'd bring this up. But yeah, it was a surreal moment. Like, I still can't believe it even now. Like, it still doesn't feel real. I might need to do some tape study though for Jack's fight for what's it called, 293. I'll get on to doing some tape for that, and then hopefully the my legend will continue to grow. But yeah, thanks for watching this. I just thought it'd be a cool story to share. Maybe some people don't care. That's all right. But I thought it was cool, and I thought, why not give it a share? Not many people know like the full story. There's a bit more to this story, but I don't want to I don't really like to talk about myself too much, so I didn't want to go like overboard on it. But yeah, yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks for listening. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you next time.